welcome to today's economics lesson. My name is Leah Mofokeng. This lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center, and is broadcasted by Pagama Research and Development. In the studio, I am with Ms. Bedboy Duduzile, who will be co-presenting with me. So in the meantime, she'll be answering your WhatsApp questions. So there is a WhatsApp number that you should use to send us questions relating to today's lesson. So this number is 079 578 2908. Do not call us. Do not use video calls. We will only respond to WhatsApp text messages only. Okay, we will be dealing with the topic of secular flow. You are all familiar with the topic. Remember, you started it in grade 10 and it progressed to grade 11, and now you're going to do it this year as chapter 1 or module 1. Okay, what you learned in grade 10 is that you learned the secular flow diagram of an open economy which has a foreign sector as one of the participants. You also learned about the participants in the secular flow diagram. You also learned about the markets, but in grade 10, you only focused on factor market and product market. You also learned about the flows in the secular flow in grade 10. You also learned about the leakages and the injections. In grade 11, that's when, under the topic of secular flow, you studied goods and services. You also did the calculations of GDP and GNP. Now in grade 12, the focus will still be the secular flow, but it will be an open economic secular flow just like in grade 10, the way you did it in grade 10. You will do the markets, but we're not only going to focus on the product market and the factor market. We will also look at other markets like the financial markets, for example. Then you will also do national account aggregates and conversions, which you did in grade 11. It's a continuation. The new topic that is added in grade 12 is the multiplier. But for today's lesson only, we're going to focus on the open economic secular flow model and the markets only for today. Here is the secular flow diagram. One can ask herself or himself a question that why are we using diagrams to explain certain information in economics? The thing is that in economics is a social science. Being it a social science, it becomes difficult for economists to perform experiments. We can't do experiments like in natural sciences, like life sciences, physical sciences. So in economics, we use models. So we use models to explain the theory and link it to the reality, link it to what is happening in the economy. So a secular flow is a model that we use to explain theory that is difficult for us to experiment. So let's look at this model. The reason why we call it an open economy is because it has what? Foreign sector. The moment we do business with other countries, then it becomes an open economy. There are participants in this module. You can look here, we have a private household. If you don't want to call them private households, you can call them what? Consumers or just households. We also have businesses here. If you don't want to call it businesses, you can call it what? Firms. If you don't want to call it firms, you can call it what? Private sector. You can call it private sector. We also have another participant, which is the state. The state, you can call it what? The government, or you can call it what? Public sector. Then we have foreign sector. So what is happening is that these participants, they interact with each other in terms of production, spending, and income. Let's use one example here. We find that we have a household. This household, they are the owners of production factors. You were taught in grade stand that they own labor, they own natural resources, they own capital. And as a result, they sell these production factors. This is the flow. They are selling. They selling where? At a factor market. They selling to whom? They are selling to the business sector. As an example, each participant in this model has a role to play. Let me, for example, look at the business cycle. Business cycle, what they do, because they bought production factors from the factor market, they use them to produce goods and services. And they sell these goods and services at a good market. And the household will buy these goods and services. The same with the government. It has a role to play in this model. The government, for example, will collect tax from the businesses, will collect tax from the household. The government will use this tax to provide public goods and services for the businesses as infrastructure, and also provide public goods and services to household. An example can be education and health. So I just want to show you that there is an interaction of participants, either in the form of production or in the form of selling factors of production or providing public goods and services. We even have the financial markets. We have the financial markets here which provide loans, for example, to the businesses. We also have private household whom they can decide not to spend their income but save it with the financial sector. So let's move forward so that explanation can take place. Okay, what is a circular flow model? You need to know its meaning. A circular flow model is used to explain the interactions between various participants in a four-sector economy. I've already touched on that, where you saw the interaction between the household and the firms, the interaction between the firms and the government, the interaction between the government and the household, even the foreign sector and the financial market. So grade 12 learners should have a prior knowledge of this particular topic. It's not new because you studied it in grade 10 and 11. There are certain concepts that you need to familiarize yourself with so that you can understand this particular module and concept of circular flow much better. The first one is the circular flow. The circular flow is an economic model that shows the flow of money through the economy. It also shows the flow of income and the flow of expenditure. We also have the concept that is called injections. The injections, what is that in economics? It is the introduction of additional money into the economy. So, for example, it takes place when businesses, they invest. It takes place when they borrow money from the financial sector or the financial market, and they use that money to buy capital goods. That will be an injection. We also have an injection of government spending, whereby the government is spending on social grants, construction of roads, provision of education and other services. Then when the government will be spending in the economy, that will generate income that will circulate. It's an injection. We also have exports as an injection. When we sell goods to foreign countries, when they pay, that income is an injection because it will be circulating in the economy when businesses will be spending it on capital goods and services. Now, another concept is investment. Investment in economics takes place in the circular flow. It's when the businesses invest. They invest through financial sector or financial market. That's where they borrow money and then they spend on buying capital goods such as company vehicles, such as equipment, tools and machinery. That in economics we call it an investment. We also have factor cost. Remember, we have four factors of production. So the amount to be paid for the various factors of productions used to produce goods and services, that is what is called factor cost. Then let us look at the leakages. You saw that injections can comprise of investment, government spending, and export. So leakages is when the money is withdrawn from the economy or from the circular flow. It's not used for spending. It's simply money that is not used for spending. If we don't spend, what do? We save. Where do we save? At financial markets. If we don't spend, we save, and we can also spend. While spending, there will be money that goes for spending, and the part of it goes to the government as what? As taxation. Even as we are working, we're receiving wages and salaries, profits, etc. There is a tax that should be paid to the government. That money should have been used for spending, but now it is withdrawn because it is now going directly to the government. We also have a leakage which is called import expenditure. That is where South Africans or South African businesses are buying goods from other countries. Money move away from South Africa to other countries. That is also a leakage. You also need to know what the concept market price means. So this is price that is paid by consumers for goods and services. Remember, bear in mind that it includes tax, and then it does not include subsidies. For example, if you go to a shop to buy a pair of shoes, the price, if the price is 100 rand, that is the market price, is 100 rand, which includes 14% of VAT, that we call the market price. We also have the term tax. Remember, in the interactions that I explained previously, I mentioned that households pay tax to the government, businesses pay tax to the government. What is a tax? This is a compulsory payment because we must pay it. It's not voluntarily. So it's a compulsory payment made by either private individuals, whom are the household or consumers, or it must be paid by the businesses. Where do they pay? They pay it to the government sector with no direct benefit. Someone sitting there is saying, but ma'am, we pay tax but we receive free education. That is not a direct benefit. When I'm talking about direct benefit, is that when you pay for something, let's say I pay for the pair of shoes, I pay money, I receive the pair of shoes. But with taxation, we pay tax, but the government can use it on a variety of services or expenses. Okay, let's move to the next slide. The definition of circular flow, I've mentioned it that it's only not the flow of money. It can be the flow of income and expenditure. Okay, so now we have a two-sector economy. We also have a three-sector economy. We also have a four-sector economy. It is important for you to know what is happening in a two-sector economy, three-sector economy, and a four-sector economy, so that when we move to the next chapter tomorrow, you are able to understand why we are using the word two-sector economy, three-sector economy, and four-sector economy. What is a two-sector economy? This is an economy where there are only two participants. It is only the households and the firms, or the consumers and the businesses. The households in this sector are the owners of factors of production, which they sell to the businesses, and the businesses use them to produce goods and services. Let's look at the three-sector economy. Okay, because there is no foreign sector in a two-sector economy, that's why we call it a closed economy. The same way with the three-sector economy, there is no foreign sector. It's called a closed economy. Who are the participants in a three-sector? It is the household, the firms, and the government. Money flow amongst these participants. No foreign sector again. Let's look at the fourth sector. Okay, the fourth sector is an open economy because it consists of the household, the firms, the state, and the foreign sector. So transactions here, they involve other countries. Then we are an open economy. Now let's move to the participants of an open economy, where we have the foreign sector. Let's start with the household, because what you need to know how to explain the interaction and the role of each participant thoroughly. In economics, if you explain in point forms and in full sentences, you will be awarded 2 marks if there is a question related to that particular topic. So household is a participant. So we call them the biggest owners of the factors of production, or the primary owners. Without the factors of production, production won't take place. So they own labor, they own entrepreneurial skill, they own capital, and they also own natural resources. You can also call it land. Households make these factors of production available to the economy, where they are used by businesses to produce goods and services. There is an interaction here. Note the interaction. As much as they are the owners of the factors of production, they are also selling them, and the businesses will buy them to produce goods and services. That is an interaction between the households and the firms. We continue with the household. The household, in exchange of the factors of production, they need to receive something. They are selling. They need to receive income for selling their factors of production. So they will receive salaries. That income will be salaries. Remember, we said they own labor. If they own labor, as a worker, at the end of the month, fortnight, or the end of a week, you will receive a wage or a salary. That is the income. Because they own capital, they will also receive interest. Because they own natural resource or land, they will receive rent. Because they own entrepreneurial skills, they will receive profit. So salaries or wages plus interest plus rent plus profit is the income that household or consumers will receive for selling their factors of production. And they don't only sell their factors of production to the businesses, they can also sell their factors of production to the government. For example, I'm a government employee, I'm working for the government, I am a household, I own labor, I have sold my labor to the government, and at the end of the month, the government will give me what? A salary. Let's look at the firms. I said that you can call them businesses if you want. You can also call them what? Private sector. Okay, what do? After buying the factors of production from the household, they combine them and they produce goods and services. This is their role. Firms do not only produce consumer goods. Remember, what is a consumer goods? These are the goods that consumers can buy. They can include food, they can include furniture. So households, they buy consumer goods from the firms. So firms do not only produce consumer goods for households, they also produce capital goods. They also produce capital goods. What are capital goods? Capital goods are the goods which are used to produce other goods. They include machinery, they include raw materials, they include company or the vehicles that are used by entrepreneurs. So they include tools, equipment. So as a result, they are sold at a capital goods market. So they are produced by whom? They are produced by the firms. So when businesses produce capital goods, that we call real investment. And for businesses to be able to produce capital goods, they need to use their own capital or borrowed capital from the financial sector. That is another interaction. Let us look at the government. The government, which is also the state, which is also the public sector, provide public goods and services. The public goods and services can be roads, dams, street lighting. It can be in the form of a service like education, protection, healthcare, etc. But where does the government get the money to provide this? Okay, the government will get the money from taxation. That's another interaction. The government collects taxation from from the private sector and from the consumers and even from the foreign sector. The government collects tax and provide us with these public goods. So to produce public goods, government require factor services and goods and services which it buys at markets. Let me explain this. I've already mentioned that I'm a government employee. So for the government to be able to render public services, government will need factor services from the household. I'm an example. The government also needs goods and services. For example, in our public schools, government provide free textbooks, free meals. So they are goods. Where does the government buy this? Government buy this from the product market. And the government also buy factors of production from the factor market. Consumers and producers benefit from the goods and services that government produces or provide or purchases. Although households and businesses pay taxes, there's different types of taxes. It can be income tax, VAT, excise duty, etc. Consumers also gain by selling their factors, services, and products to the government. I gain because I will receive a wage or a salary. Businesses gain because when they sell their products to the government, businesses will make what? Businesses will make profit. Okay. So let's move to the next point. Government regularly borrows money from private sector. This is another interaction. The government does not only buy goods and services from the private sector, it can also borrow money from the private sector, and it can also borrow money from abroad, from other countries. That's where the foreign sector comes in, so that the government can balance its budget. Let's move to the foreign sector. Foreign sector, remember, involves what? Exportation of goods and importation of goods. Before we talk about foreign sector, let me explain that when we export, it's when a South African company or business is selling goods to other countries. We are selling to other foreign countries. That's export. But when we import is when South Africans and South African business or even the government are buying goods from other foreign countries. That is an import. So the foreign sector serves both as a source of destination for goods, services, savings, and loans. So we don't only export or import goods and services. We can also borrow money from other countries, or other countries can also borrow from us. We can also invest money in other countries, or foreigners can invest in our country. We can also save money in other countries, or other residents in other countries can also save money in our country. So that is why it also involves savings and loans. So countries import and export to and from other countries. Most of these goods are produced by businesses and therefore enter the circular flow. This is another interaction where you see the interaction from the foreign sector and the firms. Firms can produce, firms can sell to other countries. Foreign firms can produce and sell to our country. That's another interaction. So the revenue and from this process is called foreign exchange. If we're selling goods to foreign countries, when they pay, South Africa will receive foreign exchange. Same thing when we pay for imports, their foreign country will receive foreign exchange from us. So if we export to other countries, the foreign exchange that we receive can be used to purchase imports. That's why it's written here that the revenue earned from this process is foreign exchange, which is needed to pay for imports. Foreign exchange market is found in the financial system. That is where different currencies for different countries can be sold and bought. Okay, then let's move to another subtopic, the markets in the circular flow. Remember in grade 10, you learned about factor market and you also learned about product market. So factor market, you can also call it an input market. You can also call it a resource market. Okay. What is sold there? Factors of production are sold at this market. Who are selling them? The household. It is through this market that households supply businesses with factors of production, like I've even mentioned previously. In exchange for what? In exchange for income. Income, which is wages and salaries, interest, rent, and profit. We have a good market or a product market. You can also call it an output market. Okay, what is sold here? It is in the goods market that households buy their goods and services. So in this market, goods and services are sold. Are sold by whom? Are sold by the producers. We also have the financial market. Before we move to financial market, also remember that in the goods market, that is where we buy what? Consumers buy consumer goods. And then businesses can also buy what? They can buy capital goods. Remember that one. Okay. We have a financial market. Financial institutions act as agents to facilitate lending and borrowing of capital. That is where household, businesses, the government, foreign sector, they can borrow money, and the financial sector can lend money. This market consists of money market and capital market. You need to learn the difference between the two. So it is divided into two. Let's look at the money market. A money market is the market for short-term savings and loans. So if you want to borrow money for a short duration of time, which is 3 months, 6 months, or less than a year, you can approach a money market. So short term is defined as lasting for less than a year. What products are sold in this particular market? Bank debentures are sold there, treasury bills are sold there, government bonds are sold there. All these three examples are the forms of credit that can be offered at a money market. So the South African Reserve Bank, which you normally abbreviate it as SARP, is the key institution in this money market. Why? Because it's the one that regulates other banks. So you will find other banks, commercial banks here like First National Bank, your Capitec, your Nedbank, etc. But the Reserve Bank is the one that regulates all these banks. Let's look at the capital market. Because we said that the money market is for a short term, for less than a year, then the capital market is the market for long-term savings and loans for more than a year. It can be more than a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it will depend. So long-term investment as well as mortgage bonds are examples of capital market activities. The key institution here is the Johannesburg Security Exchange. The JSE is the key institution in this particular market. Then we have another market that is called the foreign exchange market. Remember when I was dealing with the topic of the participants, I touched on foreign sector. I mentioned that we export or import goods from one country to another country. So when we export goods or we import goods, we're going to need the currency of another country. If we're doing business with America, when they pay us for goods that we exported to them, they will pay us in US dollars. So where are they bought? They are bought at a foreign exchange market. So foreign trade requires foreign currencies, and these currencies can only be exchanged in the foreign exchange market, like I have explained. Here is an example. If you import goods from the United Kingdom, you will have to pay them using what? Pounds. So I mentioned the currencies here. A pound is a currency for UK. So if we export goods to the USA will have to pay us in dollars. So dollars are USA currency. So where are they sold? At a foreign exchange market. So the foreign exchange market determines the rate at which the foreign currency are traded. So this is called exchange rate, where one country's currency can be sold in exchange to another country's currency. It's called an exchange rate. So let us look at the flows. Remember when we were looking at the diagram itself, I showed you the flows, flow of factors of production from the household to the businesses, flow of public goods and services from the government to the business and firms. So we have two flows. We have real flows. We also have money flows. So when we're talking about real flows, we're talking about things that are either tangible, okay? And then when we're talking about money flows, is the flow of money through spending and expenditure. So let's start with the real flows. The real flow will be factors of production. Remember the land, remember the labor, remember the capital, remember entrepreneurship. They are all known as factors of production. So they are real flows. They flow from the household to the firms, or from the household to the government, even from the household to the foreign sector. We have South Africans who are working in other countries. They represent labor. So the flow can be between the household to the firms, or to the government, or to the foreign sector. Then we have the firms who buy these factors of production. They produce goods and services. This flow of goods and services also represent real flows. Okay, so these are the real flow of goods and services from the firms to the household. Remember the firms, because this is an open economy. The firms can also sell goods to the government. They can also sell goods to other countries. Our exports represent those goods which are exported will represent real flows. Even those goods which are imported will represent real flow. The government also provides public goods which also represent a real flow. So goods which are imported and exported also represent real flow. I've mentioned that. Let's move to the money flows. Remember I said it's the flow of money. If the businesses are selling goods and services, they will receive money in return. If households are selling factors of production, they will receive money in return. If the government is collecting tax, it will receive the tax in the form of money. If businesses are borrowing money from the financial market, it will be in the form of money. It's a flow. If as households we are saving in the financial market, that we do it in the form of money, it's a money flow. If foreigners are paying for goods exported, those that we exported to them, that they will pay in the form of money. So it will all represent money flow. So money flows from firms to households. There is an income flow through the factor markets as firms pay households for the use of factors of production, meaning that the interest, the rent, the wages and salaries, plus the profit, and the profit will be money flow. That's the money that households will receive, or consumers will receive, for selling their factors of production. And when households use this income to buy goods and services, they will use this income and it will represent a money flow, like I mentioned. So these payments for goods and services represent money flow. Okay, so let us quickly move to another slide. But before we do that, let's look at households when they pay tax and the firms when they pay tax. They pay tax to the government using what? Money. That is a flow. Okay. Then you learned about the flows between different participants. Now you need to learn about leakages and injections. Remember, I introduced concepts to you. In the concepts, I introduced the word leakage to you and the word injection to you. So in economics, in this particular module, leakages and injections should be equal. But you need to know which ones are leakages, which ones are injections. Remember, with leakages, that's when money is withdrawn from the circular flow. So the word leakage will be represented by the letter L, and the word injection will be represented by the letter J. So L should be equals to J for the economy to be in equilibrium. So what is L? L equals to saving, the S is for saving, plus taxes plus imports, which will be represented by the letter M. Then injections will be represented by injections with an I, plus government spending with a G, plus export with an X. So if you look at this particular diagram, you can see that if money is not used in the firms, money will be saved in the banks. Government will also collect tax from households and businesses and even foreign sector. Government will collect that and we will call it taxation. Then when South Africans buy goods from foreign countries, it will be a leakage as an M. You can see that when we have injections, money flows back to the circular flow through investment by firms, and then through government spending, through exportation. So let us look at this further in the next slide. Leakages. What is that? Is the money that tends to leak out, that is withdrawn. It is comprises of savings and taxes, just like I've mentioned, even when we pay for imported goods. I did mention that before. And then savings, you will familiarize yourself with it with the letter S. It is income that participants choose not to spend. If you are earning 10,000 per month and you decide to spend only 5,000, then the remaining 5,000 which is not spent will be saved. Okay, and where will it be saved? At financial market. And then as we buy goods, we also pay tax. As we receive salaries and wages, profits, etc., we also pay tax. So tax is a leakage. You will familiarize yourself with the letter T. Okay, then we also have imports when we buy goods from other countries, German cars, etc., Italian products, etc. So that money is not used domestically, it's used in another country. It's a leakage. So money is flowing out of the circular flow to other countries. Injections, I've mentioned that firms invest by borrowing money from the financial market. They buy capital goods and services. This is an injection because it will create spending in the economy. Then government spending, when the government spend on constructions of roads, on social grants, there will be income circulating because of this particular spending, and there will be money in the circular flow. Example of government spending can be spending on roads, hospitals, schools, etc. Then we have export income, where we will be selling our products to other countries. When they pay, that becomes an income to our country that can be spent in the economy. So now is the time for Mem Duduzile Witbooi to show you a variety of questions based on the theory that I have explained to you. There are different types of questions that you need to practice. So we selected examples she will take you through. So let's take a 5-minute break. Don't go away when Mem Witbooi will be joining us. And don't forget to keep on sending questions to the WhatsApp number, which is 079-578-2908. Don't call, but send a text message. Let's break for 5 minutes.
I'm going to be going through the questions with you. Now what I'm going to do here, you heard the content from Mrs. Leah Mufokeng. Therefore, what we are going to be asked, please note that the questions that we are going to be doing with you are not necessarily the questions that will be asked, but they are possible questions, and they are not questions that may be asked are not limited to the ones that we'll be going through together, right? And then when it comes to the type of questions that may be asked, we have what we call short questions, we have data response questions, we have what we call paragraph questions, as well as the essay type questions. I'm going to be explaining them at a later stage. Right, now we come to what you call multiple choice questions. Now with regard to the multiple choice questions, these are the questions in which various options will be given to you as possible answers. Therefore, what you need to do, you need to select only one answer. Usually they come in a form of letters from A until D. Now you have to pick only one letter that is going to be the correct answer. Now we look at the first question that has been asked here, and it reads as follows: which one of the following is true in the product market in the circular flow model? Now the option that we are going to be choosing here is going to have to relate to the product market. Now when we look at the options that have been given, I'm not going to be going through all of them to save time. Now remember, it was said by Mrs. Mofokeng that when we speak about the households, we said that the households are going to be the owners of the factors of production. Now looking at the options that have been given here, we find that the correct option now is going to be option D. Now option D, it reads as follows. It says that businesses sell goods and services to households, and that is the correct answer. Now when we move to the following question, it reads as follows. It says that in the circular flow model, which of the following is true in now a resource or a factor market? Now, looking at the options that have been given, we are going to say that the correct answer here is going to be option B. Now, why do we say option B? Because it says that households sell resources to businesses. Remember that our households are the owners of the factors of production. And then moving on to the next question, savings flow back into the circular flow as what? It is obviously as investment, which is option B. Right, and then we move now to the next question. Which of the following is a monetary flow? I note that monetary flow in the factor market. Right, now those are our keywords. Now looking at the options that have been given, remember now when we speak about the monetary flow, we are talking about the flow of money, right? Now when we speak also about the factor market, this is now the market whereby not goods and services, but rather factors of production are being exchanged. Now when you speak about the factor market, looking at the options that are listed below, we look at option C. Now option C says that the income from firms to households. Now when you speak about income, that is money, right? And we spoke about monetary flow. Now it also says that from firms to households. So that is basically the correct option, option C. And then we go to the next question, and that reads as follows. Long-term financial instruments such as shares are traded in which market? And the answer for this one, because now we are talking about your long-term financial instruments, we are obviously referring to capital. Therefore, we say that such as shares are traded in the capital market, and therefore our answer is going to be option D. And then now when we go to the next question, it reads as follows. Which of the following is a real flow in the goods market? Now our keywords here are going to be the real flow as well as the goods market. Now, when we look at the options that have been given to us, we are going to realize that the most appropriate option here is going to be option D, which is the flow of goods and services from firms to households. And then now we go to the next question, which reads as follows. The market for short-term financial instruments is called which market? Now, this time we are talking about a short-term financial instrument. Therefore, we know that with regards to short-term, we are going to be talking about what? The money market. Therefore, in the answer for this one, the correct answer for this one is going to be D, which is the money market. Now, moving on, we still under short questions. Now, good people, now I'm going to be talking about the lower cognitive questions, which may also be referred to as your easy questions. And now, usually these questions, they carry a weight of about 2 marks. Therefore, also, these questions may come in with keywords such as list, name, give, state, etc. Now, you need not write a full sentence there. However, what you need to do is just name using maybe 1 or 2 words, depending on which concept you're supposed to be talking about there. Now, what also is important is the fact that you must ensure that when answering such questions, you answer in a bullet form or a bullet point. Now, also, just for the sake of clarity, these questions, they usually appear in your question paper as question 2.1.1, 3.1.1, or question 4.1.1, and those are found in section B of your question paper. Right, now examples, remember I said that the questions are not limited to the ones that we are going to be doing. However, the examples of the questions that may be asked are going to be the following. Name 2 examples of injections, name 2 examples of leakages, name 2 types of markets in the circular flow, or name any 2 participants in a closed economy. Remember I said that another keyword that may be used will not be name, but it would be give or state or mention, right? Now, moving on to the first question that has been asked. In attempting to answer this particular question, name 2 examples of injections. Now, when you speak about injections, Mme Mofokeng has already alluded to what injections are. Now, we look at the answers that are going to be expected when we answer this particular question. We have what you call government spending. You may also refer to this as government expenditure, right? So it could be spending or expenditure. Now, remember, when you speak about the government, we may refer to the government as public sector or rather as the state. And then another possible answer for this particular question is going to be investment. And therefore, another one would be export earnings. Now, good people, usually when I teach my learners, I would refer to the injections and try and give them a mnemonic. And I call this mnemonic, I call this mnemonic GIX, right? We usually call it the gigs. That is how we refer to our injections. Right, now moving on to the next question. With the next question, we say, rather it reads as follows. Name 2 examples of now leakages. Now, when you're speaking about leakages, we are going to be looking at the first option, and that is taxes. Even when you write taxation, you are still correct. Right. And then another option that may be allowed in answering this particular question is going to be savings. And therefore, the other answer that is expected is going to be import expenditure. And that is the money that is spent when buying goods and services from other countries. Now, we are still under short questions. And then the following question reads as follows. Name 2 types of markets. Name two types of markets in this. Welcome back from the short break. Now, as I was saying, we will be answering the question now. Name two types of markets in the secular flow. Now, good people, one of the markets that we may make mention of here is going to be the factor market. Now, remember that with the factor market, we may also refer to this market as a resource market or an input market. Let me just quickly jot them down. We say it could be a resource market or an input market. And then another market that you may make reference to here is going to be a goods market. Now, a goods market is also referred to as what? As a product market, or it could be what you call an output market. And then another possible answer for this particular question may be a financial market. Now, with regards to the financial market, good people, remember that we have two examples of financial markets. The first one is going to be what? A capital market, right? And then we also make reference to what? To a money market. Now, in this question, if let's say, for example, in answering this particular question, you write capital market and then you also write money market, we will only be allowed to award you 1 mark. Why? Because these particular markets, they both fall under the financial market. What you'd rather do is at least write capital market and then go to another one, which is maybe factor or product market. I hope that is clear. Now, because also in this particular question, we were not told if this secular flow is going to be an open one or a closed one. We are also allowed, in attempting to answer this particular question, to mention what? To mention what you call the foreign exchange market. Foreign exchange market, right? And then now I'm going to be moving to the next question. The next question reads as follows. Name any two participants in a closed economy. Now, this one is being specific. In a closed economy, name any two participants. Now, the two participants that we can mention is going to be the households. Remember that households are also called what? Called consumers. And therefore, another participant in a closed economy is going to be the firms or businesses. And then we can also refer to them as what? As the private sector. Private sector. And then another one, because we are now talking about the closed economy, we only have 3 participants. Another one could be the government. Now remember that the government may be called what? A state or what? Or also the public sector. Or the public sector. Now, these are our possible answers for this particular question, and we cannot mention the foreign sector because now this particular question made specific reference to what? To the closed economy. Right, now we are going to be moving to the next questions. Now, or rather the next set of questions. Now, good people, we are still under short questions, but however, now we are coming to what you call the middle cognitive questions. And therefore, these questions, they also usually contain 2 marks. Now, when you speak about these questions, this will be your 2-mark questions that will be asking questions such as why, how, etc. Therefore, what is important here that you should note is that in answering these questions, you must make sure that you answer in full sentences. Right, and then these particular questions are going to be the questions that are usually found in your questions 2.2.1, 3.2.1, as well as 4.2.1, and that is still in your section B. Now, the very first question that we are going to be looking at, and remember, I will keep reminding you that the questions are not limited to these ones. So it is important for you to know all your content. Why are households regarded as the important participant in the secular, or rather the most important participant in the secular flow? Now, good people, when you speak about the households, Mrs. Mofokeng did mention it quite a number of times that households are regarded as the primary owners of the factors of production, and that is what makes our households the most important participant in the secular flow. Right? So with you writing this, it's going to give you exactly 2 marks, but you can't just say owners of the factors of production. You need to be to write your answer in a full sentence that households are the owners of the factors of production. Right. Now, moving on to the next question, how will national income be influenced by leakages in the economy? And that is also a 2 marks question. Remember, we are still busy with now our middle cognitive questions. Right. Now, the national income will decrease. The question said, how will national income be influenced by leakages in the economy? What is going to happen is that when leakages are there in the economy, the national income is going to decrease. Why is that? Because little money is going to be now circulating in the economy. So for you to write that, you get your 2 marks. Another option that you could be writing as a possible answer would be the fact that money is going to be withdrawn, or rather taken out of the economy through what? Through our seed. Now, good people, when we speak about seed, we are referring to the leakages. This is going to be your savings. This is going to be your imports, as well as the taxation or taxes. Now, why do I call it the seed? It is basically a simple way for us to remember, and then we call this a mnemonic. Right, now moving on to the next set of questions. Now we are going to be dealing with paragraph questions. Right, now the first paragraph question that is available for us to can be able to answer here is going to be, describe the flows between firms and households through the factor market. Describe the flows between firms and households through the factor market. Now, this is an 8 marks question. Now, good people, this is still a middle order question. It is not a higher order question. Now, good people, when you speak about this question, we are going, because the question said flows, it was not specific whether we're looking at the real flows or the money flows. We are going to need to speak about the 2 of them. In which sense? We divide, because it's an 8 marks question, we are going to be focusing on real flows for 4 marks, meaning 2 points, and also money flows for another 4 marks, which is also 2 points. Now, a possible answer, or rather a way in which you can use to answer the question, is going to be the fact that under real flows, there is a flow of factors of production. through the factor market from households to what? To firms. Now, why do we mention the factors of production? Because the question was specific to say through the factor market. So that is why we only make reference now to what? To the factors of production. Now, an example of a real flow is going to be you as a person leaving your house in the morning to go to work at a firm. Now, why do we say that is a real flow? Because now there is no money that has been spoken about yet. So because we are only talking about you providing your labor services to that particular firm, we refer to that as what? As a factor, but as a real flow in a factor, or rather through a factor market. Right. And then another way that you can tackle this particular question is by saying that there is also the flow of capital, labor, and entrepreneurship from households to firms. Now, why do we say from households to firms? Because now we are talking about the factor market, and we are reminded once again that the factor market is going to be owned by who? By the households, because the households are the ones that own the factors of production. Therefore, they sell them to who? To the firms. Right. And then we move now to what? To the money flows with regards to the very same question. Now, when you're speaking now about the money flows, there is an income flow through the factor market once again, right? Through the factor market, as firms pay the households for the use of the factors of production that are owned by the households, as we have been reiterating. Now, you can also go as far as mentioning the remunerations for your particular factors of production: rent for land, interest for capital, and profits for what? For entrepreneurship. And these are all your monetary flows, and therefore they also form part of what? Of the income flow. Now, having said that, you would have gotten your full 8 marks. And remember, full sentences. Now, we're still under middle order paragraph questions. The next question is going to be, explain the flows between firms and households. Now it says through the goods market, also for 8 marks. Now, remember that we said that because our question is not specific with regards to whether we're speaking about real flows or money flows, you need to mention both, and each of them for 4 marks. Now, looking at the real flows for this particular question, we say that firms use the factors of production to produce goods and services that they make available to who? To the consumers, or rather the households, through the product market or the goods market. Now, this is the real flow of goods and services that is going to flow from who? From firms to households. Because in this case, the households are going to be buying the goods and services from who? From the firms. Right. And then now we move to the next question. The very same question, but now we look at the money flow. Now, with regards to the money flow, remember we said that households are going to be buying goods and services, right? Now, in order for them to buy goods and services, they need to use their income to pay for those goods and services through the goods market. Now, when they pay, now we are talking about money. Therefore, that is why we say that the payment that they make is going to form part of the money or the monetary flow, right? And then we go to the fact that this payment for goods and services is a monetary flow from households to firms through what? Through the goods market. Now, having said this, you would have gotten your full 8 marks. 4 for the money flow and another 4 for what? For the real flow. Now, moving on. The next question reads as follows. Describe the impact of increased consumer expenditure in the circular flow. Now, when you speak about consumer expenditure, we understand that consumer expenditure happens when consumers buy, or rather they spend their income to buy goods and services through the goods market. right? Now, as spending by households increases, what happens is that monetary flow is also going to increase to firms through what? Through the goods market. As the goods move from firms to households, the real flow from firms to households is going to increase. Now, this increased spending or expenditure by households, it causes the firms to increase production, since the demand for goods and services is now what? Is higher, right? And now, as firms increase their production, the production flow increases and more factors of production are going to be employed. Now, good people, remember when you speak about factors of production, labor is also part of the factors of production. Therefore, when more labor has been employed to meet the increased demand for goods and services, it means that now more households will now have an income that they will use to be able to spend more goods and services, and that keeps the economy going. Right, and then now we move to the next question. The next question says, explain the role of now the business sector in the circular flow, and that is also for 8 marks. The first point that you may mention there is the fact that firms purchase the factors of production from what? From the household through what? Through the factor market. Now, when the firms have purchased these factors of production, they are going to use them to do what? To manufacture, or rather to produce goods and services. Now, after producing these goods and services, what is going to happen is that the businesses are going to sell these goods and services to who? To the other participants, which is now the households, the business, the households, the government, as well as who? The foreign sector, because we are not told which circular flow is this one, whether it's open or not. So we are allowed to also include what? The foreign sector. Now, after selling these goods and services to the other participants, businesses are going to get in return what? What you call an income or revenue, right? Now, after getting this particular revenue, the businesses are going to be paying taxes to the government. Using what? Using the profits that were made from the sale of the goods and services that were produced by them, of course. And now businesses are going to also pay what? They are going to pay the government for the use of public goods and services. And then also what happens is that these particular businesses, they export goods to other countries, and therefore they import goods from other countries. And then looking at now another question, it says, link the role of the financial and foreign market to the other participants in the circular flow. Now, when you look at this particular question, you will realize that we have 2 markets that are being mentioned here. The financial market as well as what? As the foreign market. Now, when you look at this particular question, it means that because it is an 8-mark question, we are going to need to divide it into 2, meaning we are going to focus on the financial market 2 points and another 2 points for what? For foreign market. Now, with regards to the financial market, we say that the savings of households, firms, as well as the government are going to be accumulated in the financial market. And also, we also have what you call investment. Investments are going to be, or rather money is going to be invested through the financial market by lending money to what? To households, firms, as well as the government. And all these are going to happen through what? Through the financial market. And also, another point that you may add there is the fact that the inflows of money in the financial market are going to be equal to what? To the outflows of money. And therefore, that makes our circular flow of income complete and continuous. Now, moving on to now the foreign sector. in the very same question, we are going to refer to the fact that the foreign sector is going to receive revenue from what? From firms, from households, as well as government. For what? For the export of goods and services. And therefore, after receiving that particular income, it is going to make payment, right? It is going to make payment for the import from firms and the government. Therefore, it makes also payment for the factors, for the factors services to households, meaning that the households are also going to be paid using that particular income for the services that they have also rendered. Now we are going to another set of questions. We are still on our paragraph questions. However, here now we move to what? To the higher order question. HO stands for higher order. Now, good people, with regards to the higher order questions, these are now the questions that require us to do what? To apply knowledge, to think out of the box. These are not just questions that you can get straight from the textbook and just put it there. You need to apply the knowledge that has been instilled from you, to you in the classroom, and make sure that you understand it so that you are able to apply it when the question is being asked. Now, looking at the first example of the question that may be expected of us to answer, why is savings regarded as a leakage in the circular flow? And this is also for 8 marks, right? Now, when we say why is savings regarded, we know that we were already told that savings are a leakage. But why are savings a leakage? What makes them leak the economy or withdraw from the economy? And now you need to think. If everyone in the model spends all the money they receive in income, it means that the business sector has enough money to do what? To hire employees and to buy resources. However, when households decide to do what? To save some of their income, it means that they reduce what? The amount of money that they are going to be spending to buy goods and services. Therefore, they are going to be putting that money in what? In bank accounts, in mutual funds, and other saving instruments. Now, with that money leaking out of the circular flow, businesses lack the cash to do what? To hire employees and to purchase resources, which could lead to unemployment and recession without a way to introduce the money back into the system. And this is why it is important that we have the financial sector. It is going to solve this particular problem. The financial sector, what it does is that it is going to do what? To take the savings, right, and then lend it to do what? To what? To our businesses. Now, when lending the money to the businesses, it means that the money is going to be injected into, or rather back into the system. Now, we look at now the following question, which says, how can households, as an important participant in the circular flow, contribute positively or contribute to building the economy? And that is also for 8 marks. Now, we have been saying that the households are going to be the owners of the factors of production. Now, as owners of the factors of production, or primary owners of the factors of production, our households may try to do what? To increase the quality of their factors of production. Now, how is this going to help? It is going to ensure that these factors of production are bought more so that they have a better contribution to what? To the economy, right? Also, households may sell their factors of production at lower rates. Now, when they sell them at lower rates, it is going to help lower inflation and therefore build the economy, because we know that when the prices are low, the demand is high. Therefore, when the prices for their factors of production is going to be low, more of these factors are going to be demanded by the whole economy, and therefore it is going to do what? To lower the inflation rate, therefore building what? Our economy, right? And then another point that we may look at is the fact that our households or laborers, they may try to do what? To limit labor unrest or strike, where they usually claim unrealistic wage or salary increases. Now, with less strikes, it is going to help build or increase our economy, right? And then we go to another point which says that households may do what? May increase their savings and contribute indirectly to increase production in the manufacturing sector. Remember, we said that savings are a leakage in the economy. However, through the financial sector, if we save through them, it is able to do what? To lend the money to what? To who? To the other participants in the economy. Therefore, the money will be used now as an investment that side, therefore ensuring that the production of goods and services is going to improve in the economy. And then we also say that households can limit their spending on luxury goods. How is that going to help us? It will limit the aggregate demand and stabilize prices, meaning that if the demand for goods and services is not high, producers will find it difficult for them to be able to do what? To increase their prices. So that will help the economy as well. Now, another way in which households may contribute positively into the economy is that households may concentrate on buying South African goods or local goods and services. And that is going to help promote or stimulate what you call local production of goods and services, future export, and increase penetration of markets internationally. Because if we are going to be buying goods and services from our local producers, it means that the demand, as it increases, they will also need to increase their supply. Therefore, the more that they supply, it means that they may also get exposure for them to be able to export their goods and services to what? To other countries and be recognized globally as well. And then another way in which households can contribute is the fact that when they pay their relevant taxes and claim better service delivery and infrastructure development. If they pay their taxes, the government will be able to do what? To spend more on government expenditure. Therefore, lives will be improved. The economy will also be able to do what? To grow and also to develop. Now, the next question says, justify the equation L is equal to J and illustrate component element. The economy is in equilibrium if leakages are going to be equal to injections. L refers to leakages and then J to injections. Now, when we speak about the L, we are talking about the leakages. Now, with regards to the leakages, I usually call them, or rather refer them to as the SMT. Those in the education fraternity will understand. And then with regards to the injections, I usually call them what? The gigs, as I indicated before. Now, it means that the sum of our savings plus our imports plus our taxation needs to be equal to what? To the sum of our government expenditure plus our investment as well as our exports. Right. Therefore, we also say that the process of restoring equilibrium causes changes to national income as follows. National income rises when our gigs is going to be higher than it's going to be higher than the SMT, meaning when our injections are going to be more than what? More than the leakages. The amount of injections more than leakages increases what you call demand for goods and services. To satisfy the additional demand, it means that more goods and services will be produced and more income will be generated. National income will fall whenever our GICS is going to be smaller than the SMT, meaning when our injections are going to be less than our leakages. It means that national income is going to fall. Right, now the amount of leakages more than injections reduces the existing money flow. How is expenditure related to income and production? I call this the pie. We are talking about how is expenditure related to income and production. Production, income, and expenditure. This is our daily bread in economics, right? Now, in answering this question, you need to mention the fact that the government, if the government decides to embark, for example, on a big infrastructure program, such as bus lanes in the major cities, the project will require additional workers who in turn will earn an income, who in return will earn an income. These individuals now have an income which will be used to purchase consumer goods and services. Right. I want us to quickly go to this particular question. And this question is called a data response question. Now, when we look at this particular question, with our data response questions, we may find that our data is going to consist of maybe a table, cartoon, an extract, or anything that would be of use to us. Now, when we look at this particular diagram here, we have a circular flow model. Now, you will see that it's going to be a two-sector. How do we know this? Because there is government as well as businesses. Now, let us quickly go through the questions. Which other participant in a closed economy is not included in the diagram? It is going to be the household. And then when we look at the next question in the very same data response question, name the other participant that causes the economy to become open. We are going to refer to what? To the foreign sector, because only the foreign sector is excluded. And then when we go to briefly describe the term circular flow. Circular flow is going to be an economic model that shows the flow of money through the economy. What real flow is taking place from the business sector to the public sector? And that is going to be the flow of goods and services, because we are talking about a real flow. Now, the very last question here, which consists of 4 marks. How will taxation influence the circular flow model? And that is for 4 marks. Right. Taxation is going to reduce the amount of money that flows in the economy. Aggregate demand and production output will also be reduced or lowered. This is, however, a temporary condition as government inject these funds back into the circulation through the provision of public goods and services. However, a decrease in taxation may increase what? Disposable income, and consumer expenditure will also increase. Aggregate demand and production output will also be increased or will be higher. Good people, thank you so much for watching this lesson. Please remember to sanitize, wear your mask, and maintain social distancing. And please keep safe. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next lesson.